Okay, hi there, my name's Billy Mack. I am the supervisor of my crew. I've been on the rig for 4 years. I was made supervisor about 7 months ago. My job is to make sure the well-being and the safety of the boys, make sure the job's done to the best of my ability, our ability, and ultimately safely. I've been working with the same bunch of lads for maybe, well, 4 of them for the 7 years that I've been, the 4 years that I've been here. We all get along well as a team, work good together, trust each other, and I think we're one of the best crews that the company has. The difficulty in becoming a supervisor, obviously, is that you've been pals with these guys for a long time. You know their personalities, you know which ones that you can push, you know which ones you best leave alone to get on with it. Obviously, when we've got newcomers coming onto the rig, guys that have never been out before, it's my job to make sure that they're doing everything to the best of their ability. It's not just the induction they get when they first join the company, it's my job to keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing the job safely and well. I learned from my supervisor the best way to go about things is to lead by example, which I hope I do. I've always been pretty safe. I've never had a lost time accident that I can remember. Obviously I've had a few pinches and a few bumps and bruises, but no lost time, and obviously as a result of these pinches and bruises I've learned. That's probably the hard way, but I can pass that information on to others and make sure that it doesn't happen to them. There's one or two awkward positions about being the supervisor. I mean, I don't enjoy putting people in their place, but if I think they're doing something that's not safe, then I will tell them. And I think that's everybody's job, to make sure everybody keeps an eye out for each other. I mean, we all want to go home at the end of the shift. If I give you an example, say we have before we go on tower, each day I get my information from the OIM, what he wants me to do, the barge engineer, whatever, and I relay that on to the crew. Now what I tend to do is get a meeting in the boot room, toolbox talk, maybe take about 10 minutes, just going through what is expected for at least the first couple of hours when we get on shift, to make sure that we're all doing the same job and we're all in control. I talk through the hazards, the difficulties, the potential hazards. I talk through what's expected of each individual as a group and as individuals on the rig. We go through what's been happening prior to us coming on tower, and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it to the best of ability. I ask at the end of the toolbox talk if there's any questions, and usually I've covered every topic pretty thoroughly, and so everybody knows what they're expected to be doing and what I expect of them. Then we go out, relieve your opposition, have a quick chat, find out if there's anything that's potentially dangerous to the individuals. Then we go and relieve our backs-to-backs and carry on with the task and what the OIM expects of us. I think I'm pretty fair. Been around long enough to realise that not everybody can take a wee bit of criticism, but it's for the well-being of everybody, so I don't mind dishing it out at times. And I don't mind it being dished out to me either. Right, so this supervisory capacity that I'm in, don't get me wrong, I realise I'm one of the, shall we say, more responsible people on the rig, and therefore, I was glad to step up to the mark, but it's maybe not as easy as I first anticipated. I mean, to begin with, let's be honest, the way it used to be done, it was, you were told how to do it and just got on and did it. And my supervisor, it was a case of do as I say, not as I do. And he was right. I mean, he kept me safe, he kept the boys safe, and that's, you know, that was a good way to go about it. And I've tried that approach. I think because I've been working with the lads for such a long time and on the tools with them, sometimes they forget that I am a supervisor. I can get a wee bit embarrassed myself saying it, but it is my job to keep on top of things and make sure everything's working safely and to the best of our ability. But sometimes, you know, it's very difficult to speak to guys that have been doing the job longer than you and have had, you know, more experience, and perhaps they should have been further up the ladder. You know, it's kind of difficult to tell them, you know, what you're doing is wrong, and you know you should go about it in a different way. And I suppose it's maybe not lack of training. I've had good training on man management and that, but it's something that I'm finding a wee bit difficult myself. What I tend to do, well, there's a young lad who's been on the rig just a couple of months now. He's been through his induction training and stuff like that. Now I've seen things slipping within my own crew, especially with some of the older hands, that maybe we'd be guilty of taking shortcuts. So I decided to kind of stamp my authority, and I saw this young lad. He was coming down the ladders. He had a Stilson at 48 over his shoulder. It was for some reason, and so at never any point did he have a minimum of 3 points of contact on the ladders. Now that is a no-no. He's putting himself at risk, and he's putting anybody who's below him at risk, and of course he's carrying a big 48 over his shoulder. So what I decided to do was to pull him up for this. And I pulled him up in front of everybody because I needed to stand my authority and say, look. So I called a halt. I said, down towards everybody, hold on a minute, you! And I gave him a right bollock. I said, well, at what stage did you have 3 points of contact on that ladder? And he was a wee bit shy and reticent, not forward. I kind of embarrassed him a wee bit, but I needed to show the whole team that this is something I take responsibility for, and I want them to take responsibility as well. And I'm not scared of dishing it out when I see mistakes. The lad, he was explaining that he had to get the Stilson down from the top of the ladder as it was a safety hazard up the top there. But he was putting himself at risk and the rest of the crew at risk. I pulled him out, gave him a bollocking in front of everybody, let them see who was the boss. I can see a few heads going down as I was pulling him out. And I'm sure we've all done it, but there's no excuse for it, not in this day and age. Safety is a major factor. The thing is, with the young lad that got the bollocking, I mean, he deserved it, quite right, you know. I put him, well, let's say I made him aware of the safety issue. Unfortunately, you know, it's not the only one that's been up to no good, up to nonsense, shall we say. The thing is, you know, the old hands that have been at it for a long time, there's a kind of technique that you get used to over the years of how to do things, and one or two shortcuts that should be taken. I mean, even walking down a set of steps, we should always have 3 points of contact. But you know, there's quicker ways to get up and down ladders. Not attaching, if you're going up a derrick, not attaching your safety line when you're climbing up or coming down. Obviously with counterbalance gets you up a lot quicker, but it's difficult when lads are on the rig longer than you, and we've always had a laugh and a joke. So when you're trying to pull them up for things, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. It's not a nice thing to do, tell somebody who's been in it longer than you that, hey, hold on a minute, you're not doing it right. So hopefully, giving the young lad a bollocking made other people look at themselves and start questioning themselves. Set cards. Great idea, great idea. I used them a lot when I first started out because, you know, hence the reason I was most probably made supervisor, because I was always observing, checking things. Now my team, we seem to be getting less and less of these now. I don't know if that's because I'm running a tight ship and it's everybody is sticking to my rules and regulations for operating in a safe manner, or if it's laziness on behalf of the teammates. But they are, seem to be getting less and less of these, which, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe I'm doing the job, pretty well. But there was one occasion just recently, one of the younger team members, not the same lad as coming down the ladders at KCADeutag, but another one who's a basic, simple operation of lifting a sub, a small sub. He could manage it himself, but instead of having his knees bent and his back straight, he was arched over trying to pick it up. It's one of the fundamental things we learn throughout life, no matter what job you're in, how to lift something properly in a deadlift. So, once again, he had to be pulled out and had to demonstrate my wrath at the young lad, especially in front of the kind of mates I've been working with. There's something going on there. It's a difficult one because I need to be a wee bit distanced from the guys now. Can he be the same? I'm not the mate. I am the mate, don't get me wrong, but I'm a supervisor now. It's difficult to be one and the other. I mean, with the young lads that are new to the crew, they know who I am and what I am, but it's kind of the older ones. I just find it difficult to almost get that authority that I need to make sure that they're doing the job right. And these things, it gives me an opportunity to talk about things. If somebody says that, if you don't use the set card and they just say, oh, by the way, you're not doing that safe, then that's just one person learning. Whereas when we get a set card, that's everybody learns, because we can bring it up in the next meeting and say, look at these issues, these are what are happening, and this is what I would do to go about it. Now, I'm a great believer in hands off and everybody gets on and does their own thing, makes each other aware, but the thing about the set card is it makes everybody aware, not just the individual that's made the mistake, but everybody on the crew, on the team. Again, less and less, and I don't know why. I'm not going to bollock everybody every time they make a mistake. I'm going to try and point it out and make it useful for the team so that we all know that these are the stupid little hazards, like the deadlift, knees bent, back straight, simple. But if a young lad doesn't understand that, maybe one or two of the older guys don't understand, or at least again a wee bit lackadaisical when it comes to doing a lift. So these are things that need to be brought to everybody's attention. And I'll do it to the best of my ability, I will. But I need to know what is going on at all times. I can't be there, watching everybody at any one time. I've got my own job to be going on with. But these things, hopefully it's because I'm running a tight ship and it's not laziness. Having said that, I don't check everybody's pocket that they do have a set card. I mean, that's part of the rules and regulations. For being on the rig, everybody should be carrying these and using them when they see something that's hazardous. Maybe I should do a routine check every day before we go on tower to make sure everybody's got their set card. Right, I suppose there's tasks that everybody should be held responsible for. I mean, for example, go and relieve your back to back. I always find it best, if you go out a good 10 minutes before your shift, find out where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, hand over. And that's everybody's responsibility. Roustabouts, crane up, roughnecks, derrickmen, and AD and drill obviously there. Spend a bit of time in the shack beforehand anyway. But what it tends to happen is, and I'm guilty as charged as you tend to have a little bit of a bitch and a moan about what's been going on, or different personalities on the rig. It's not always the best, but it kind of relieves, and you can have a good laugh and a joke about things. I mean, the other day, the derrickman is just new to the job he's been in. He was a relief derrickman for a while, and he came up and he's trying to kick in and be as fast as the likes of myself when I was a derrickman, and that's a routine. It takes, it's almost an art form, it takes a lot of technique. But what he's trying to do is release the cow horns before the drill pipe set and the slips. We've got God knows how many tons of drill pipe hanging on the cow horns. And he's pulling away, which is a hazardous situation, could have damaged his back there. But once the pipes are in the slips, he opens the cow horn, the drawworks go up, and he hasn't chained in, and of course the drill pipe falls across the drill floor, wedging itself in the derrick. So that was it, drilling operation stopped. And this guy, if he's been told once, he's been told 100 times, but he's just trying to be, the flash kid. And, well, we ended up so flash, it took us about 2 hours to get the stuff back online again. We had to use the mule lines wrapped around the stick, trying to wedge it out. It got really wedged in the derrick. It was a disaster. And anyway, good point, we should take him aside and have a chat with him, but he's not on my shift. He's, we spend more time filling out forms than we do actually on the job. Preparing for the job, but the way I prepare, the way my team prepare, we understand what we've got to do. We've got the isolation, we've got everything on permits and control, because it's either been done prior to us coming on tower, or we know that's what we. So we know these are things that are common knowledge, and so totally just prompts. This is just common knowledge. Whatever you do, you've always got to look around, find out what the potential hazards are and stuff. How we will communicate with each other. If it's too noisy, we shout. What is that? We know why they're doing it, don't we? It's obvious. They've got to cover their backs. As long as they tick all the boxes, and that's exactly what we just do, tick the boxes, get on with the job. And once we get on the job, then we find out what the hazards are. No point in talking about, it's all great in theory, but it's when you're actually doing the job in practical terms that you learn what the hazards are, what the dangers are, and then you make everybody else aware of them, not prior to when you go out on tower. You can spend more time filling in forms and doing anything else. Post-job review, with my shift, job done. Simple as that. I don't get it. I suppose everybody fills them in, the supervisor. But that's more or less just covering what I talk about prior to going on tower, or what we talk about while we're doing the job. Because how do you know what the risk assessment is until you're there and experience it? Weather conditions. You can't sit in a boot room and think, the weather conditions are bad, because you don't know, you haven't been out yet. It's only when you're out actually doing the job that you find out. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't get the reason for it. Maybe others do. Right there. The pre-shift briefing. To be honest with you, because I've not been a supervisor for an awful long time, I find this sometimes a wee bit difficult, sitting in front of the OIM, barge engineer, the company man maybe, different tool pushers and HSE, but it's still a learning curve for me. And I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I don't want to appear ignorant about what's going on, so I tend to usually keep quiet, listen to what they've got to say. My job is really to relate what they want to my voice as a crew. So I listen and take on board what's expected of me, what's expected of the crew. Then I go down the boot room and I have the same kind of meeting with the lads, explain what's more or less we're going to do that day, how we're going to go about it. Maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum. It's pretty one-way traffic. I tell them what we're going to do. Make sure there's no questions. Everybody understands what's happening. Get them to sign it off. Right, put it on the notice board, and anybody who hasn't been able to make the meeting, well, at least they know that it's on the notice board, and they can sign, read it. And I must admit, I'm not religious about the sign-ins, and obviously I want everybody to sign, but not everybody does. Not everybody can attend the meeting, but the ones that are there, the majority of them sign it, which again is I suppose, making sure we cover each other's backs. But it's up on the notice board for any crew member to see during the day and sign off before the end of the shift. Well, that's me being in my supervisory capacity for over 7 months now. And I enjoy it. I think I've gained the respect of the lads. It hasn't been easy, but I think I'm getting there. I've got quite a good relationship with senior management. I suppose my relationship with the lads could be a bit better if we could just get that kind of me as a more confidence in my authority, and I suppose I'll give myself a good 5 out of 10. Aye, a good 5 out of 10, but thing is, I'm willing to learn. I mean, the way I was taught, you know, you learn through your mistakes. If you got it wrong, you got to bollock him. That way you never got it wrong a second time. Or if you did get a pinch point or a nip, then you'd know to put your hand there again. But I want to be better at my job, and I want to progress. I like working for the company. I like what I do, and I think I've got the ability to go further, to be better. Any suggestions that might help me improve and be the supervisor ultimately I want to be, then that would be welcome.